Zilara nodded, determination shining in her eyes. We'll protect our family. We'll fight for what's right. With a renewed sense of purpose, they finished their preparations. The time for action was drawing near, and they were ready to face whatever challenges awaited them. Together, they would uncover the truth behind the pirates and fight for their survival, standing strong against the odds. The showdown. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the alien landscape, John, Zilara, and Kelia stood on the deck of their ship, the Horizon. The air was tense with anticipation. They were ready for a confrontation with the pirates, and the weight of their mission felt heavy on John's shoulders. "Are you sure about this?" Zilara asked, her voice steady but laced with concern. "We don't know what we're walking into." John turned to her, trying to appear calm. "We have to do this. The pirates are a threat to all of us. If we don't stop them now, they'll just keep attacking." Kelia stood between them, gripping her mother's hand tightly. "Will we really be okay, Mommy?" Zilara knelt down and looked into her daughter's eyes. "Yes, sweetheart. We're a team, and we'll protect each other. We just have to be smart and brave." John nodded, determination shining in his eyes. "Let's go over the plan one more time. We'll need to be quick and decisive." They gathered around a makeshift table inside the Horizon. A holographic map of the area projected before them, showing the location of the pirates' hideout. The map flickered with various markers indicating points of interest. "According to Tessa," John explained, pointing to the map, "the pirates are holed up in a cave system about 5 clicks from here. We'll approach quietly and gather intel. If we find an opportunity, we'll strike." Zilara looked closely at the map. "And what about their defenses? Do they have guards?" "From what we gathered, they have a few sentries, but they're mostly focused on keeping watch for larger threats," John replied. "We can use that to our advantage." "Let's hope we don't get caught," Zilara said, her tone serious. Kilia's eyes widened with a mix of fear and excitement. "I want to help." John smiled gently. "You'll help by staying close to us. Remember, we have to be careful." As the trio prepared to set out, they collected their gear. Zilara secured her medical kit, making sure they had everything they needed. John checked their weapons, ensuring they were ready for anything. "Let's move," John said, leading the way as they disembarked from the Horizon. The walk to the pirates' hideout was filled with a palpable tension. John kept a steady pace, leading Zilara and Kelia through the rugged terrain, staying low and watching for any signs of danger. They reached the entrance of the cave system just as twilight set in, the darkness providing them with a natural cover. Inside the cave, the air was cool and damp. The walls glistened with moisture, and the distant sound of dripping water echoed through the tunnels. Zilara held Kilia's hand tightly as they moved cautiously through the shadows. "Stay close," John whispered, scanning the area for any signs of movement. As they crept deeper into the cave, they spotted dim lights flickering in the distance. John signaled for them to stop. "That must be where they're holed up," he said, pointing toward the light. Zilara nodded, her expression serious. "We should listen first. We need to know what they're planning." They moved quietly toward the source of the light, pressing against the cool stone walls. As they got closer, they could hear the voices of the pirates echoing through the tunnels. "Soon, we'll raid the human ship," one of the pirates said, his voice low and menacing. "They think they're safe, but we'll take everything." Another voice responded, filled with excitement. "And then we'll be rich. No one will stop us." John's heart raced as he exchanged worried glances with Zilara. "We can't let that happen," he whispered. "Agreed," Zilara replied, her expression fierce. "We need to gather evidence of their plans." They moved closer to the entrance of the chamber, peering inside. The pirates were gathered around a table, their crude map filled with marks indicating various ships and targets. "Looks like they're planning to attack more than just us," John whispered. "We need to warn the others." Suddenly, a loud noise echoed through the cave. A pirate had spotted them. "Intruders!" he shouted, reaching for his weapon. "Run!" John yelled, pulling Zilara and Kelia back as the pirates scrambled to grab their weapons. The trio raced down the tunnels, hearts pounding in their chests. John could hear the shouts of the pirates behind them, their footsteps echoing ominously. "We need to get to the ship," he shouted, determination fueling his legs. The Mercenary Alliance. Inside the cantina, John, Zilara, and Kelia were met with the dim glow of neon lights and the low hum of conversation. The air was thick with the smell of strange foods and the sounds of laughter mixed with arguments. John's heart raced as they moved further inside, keeping close together. "Stay alert," he whispered to Zilara and Kelia. "We don't know who we can trust here." They found a corner table and sat down. John looked around, noticing various alien species gathered, some with sharp features, others with soft, round bodies. All of them shared one common trait. They exuded a sense of danger. After a few tense moments, the green-skinned merchant from earlier walked in, nodding to John and Zilara. "I've arranged a meeting for you," he said, his tone serious. "The mercenaries are waiting in a private room at the back." Zilara's grip on Kelia's hand tightened. "Lead the way." As they followed the merchant, John's mind raced with thoughts of the pirates. They needed a plan, and the mercenaries might be their best shot at finding the pirates and uncovering their intentions. He could feel the weight of their situation pressing down on him. The merchant opened a door at the end of the corridor and gestured for them to enter. The room was small but well lit, with a round table in the center. At the table sat 3 mercenaries, a tall, muscular creature with reptilian skin, a humanoid with cybernetic enhancements, and a short but fierce-looking alien with a wicked grin. "Welcome," the reptilian mercenary said in a deep voice. "I'm Gorn, and these are my companions, Tessa and Vex. We hear you're looking for some help." John nodded, trying to appear confident. "We need information on a group of pirates. They just attacked us, and we want to know what they're planning." Tessa, the humanoid with cybernetic arms, crossed her arms. "Pirates are bad news. They raid and pillage, but they usually go after technology or resources. What makes you think they're planning something bigger?" Zilara stepped forward, her voice steady. "They were after us specifically. They had something in mind, and we need to find out what it is before it's too late." Vex, the short alien, leaned forward, intrigued. "You want to take the fight to them?" John exchanged glances with Zilara, then nodded. "If we can gather enough information, we can stop them." Gorn studied John for a moment, then nodded slowly. "I like your spirit, but we're not cheap. What do you have to offer?" John felt a knot form in his stomach. They had little in the way of resources, but he couldn't show weakness now. "We can pay you with technology we salvage from the pirates. There might be valuable equipment on their ship." Tessa raised an eyebrow, clearly interested. "If you can get it, I consider it a fair trade." Kelia, who had been silent, tugged at Zilara's sleeve. "Mommy, are we going to fight them?" Zilara knelt beside her daughter, her expression softening. "We're going to be careful, sweetheart. We want to make sure everyone is safe." Vex grinned, a mischievous glint in his eyes. "Kids always want to fight, but I promise, if you help us, we'll protect you. We're good at what we do." John looked around the table, feeling a sense of urgency. "So what's the plan? How do we find the pirates?" Gorn leaned back in his chair, arms crossed. "We have a few contacts who might know where the pirates are hiding. But first, we need to gather some supplies and prepare. They won't take kindly to being hunted." Zilara's voice was firm. "We don't have much time. We need to move quickly." Tessa nodded. "I can gather intel from my sources while you prepare. Meet back here in a few hours." As they left the private room, John felt a mix of hope and fear. The mercenaries were their best chance at uncovering the truth behind the pirates' plans, but would they truly be trustworthy? Kelia looked up at John. "Are we going to be okay?" John smiled gently, hoping to ease her worries. We'll be just fine, Kelia. We're in this together. Outside the cantina, the streets were alive with activity. John led Zilara and Kelia back to their ship, their minds buzzing with the possibilities ahead. The plan was taking shape, but they needed to remain vigilant. Let's check the ship for anything we can use, Zilara suggested. We might need to make some adjustments. As they boarded their ship, John felt the weight of the mission resting on his shoulders. They had to prepare for the confrontation ahead, and every moment counted. Together, they gathered tools and supplies, readying themselves for the battle against the pirates. As they worked, John couldn't shake the feeling that they were walking a dangerous path. But he knew they had no choice. To protect Zilara and Kelia, they had to confront the pirates head-on. With their preparations nearly complete, John turned to Zilara. Whatever happens, we will find a way through this. The unexpected allies. After escaping the clutches of the pirates, John, Zilara, and Kelia flew through the vastness of space. The cockpit was filled with a tense silence, each of them processing the chaos they had just endured. John focused on the stars stretching before them, but his heart raced with anxiety. They were safe for now, but how long would that last? What do we do now? John asked, glancing at Zilara. We need to find a safe place to land and regroup. Zilara turned to the navigation console, her eyes scanning the nearby star systems. I know of a small outpost on a nearby moon. It's a trading post. They should have supplies and information about the pirates. Kelia tugged at her mother's sleeve. Will it be safe there, Mommy? Zilara knelt down to her daughter's level. It will be, sweetheart. We just need to stay alert and stick together. I promise. John nodded, feeling the surge of determination. Let's head there. We need to make a plan. As they set their course for the moon, Zilara took a deep breath, visibly relaxing as they put distance between themselves and the pirate ships. We should have some time before they regroup and come after us again, she said, confidence returning to her voice. Kelia looked out the viewport, her eyes sparkling with wonder. Look at all the stars. It's so pretty. John smiled, glancing at the young girl. Yes, it is. But we have to be careful. Space can be beautiful, but it can also be dangerous. They flew through the endless expanse, and soon the moon came into view. It was small and rocky, with patches of green where the inhabitants had managed to cultivate life. As they approached, John felt a flicker of hope. Let's land over there, by the trading post, Zilara directed. It should have a secure docking bay. The ship touched down with a gentle thud. John quickly powered down the engines and turned to Zilara. Are you ready? He asked, his voice steady, but filled with anticipation. Zilara nodded, taking Kelia's hand. Let's go. We need to find information and supplies. As they exited the ship, they were greeted by the hustle and bustle of the trading post. Various alien species moved about, trading goods and exchanging news. John felt a wave of relief wash over him. They were among people, and it felt safer than being alone in space. Stay close, Zilara instructed, leading Kelia by the hand. John walked beside them, scanning the area for any signs of trouble. They approached a small market stall run by a gruff-looking alien with green skin and 4 eyes. What do you want? He grunted, his voice deep and gravelly. We need information about the pirates, Zilara said, her tone firm. Have you seen any ships like theirs around here? The alien squinted at them, his eyes narrowing. Why do you want to know? They're not friendly. John stepped forward, trying to appear calm. We've just escaped from them. We need to know if they're nearby. The alien considered them for a moment before nodding slowly. I saw them not long ago. They were heading toward the old mining facility on the other side of the moon. Be careful. They're looking for something. Zilara exchanged a worried glance with John. What could they be looking for? She wondered aloud. Something valuable. I'd guess, the alien replied. They often raid places for technology and resources, You don't want to get caught up in their schemes. Kelia tugged at her mother's hand. Can we go home now? Zilara knelt down, brushing a strand of hair from Kelia's face. Not yet, sweetheart. We need to make sure we're safe first. John felt a swell of determination. We have to find out what the pirates are up to. If they're looking for something valuable, we might be able to use it against them. Zilara nodded in agreement. You're right. We need to gather more information. If they have something we can use, we can turn the tide in our favor. The alien merchant leaned closer. If you're serious about this, I can help. There's a group of mercenaries who might be willing to assist you. They're skilled and know how to deal with pirates, but you'll need to pay them well. John exchanged glances with Zilara, a silent agreement passing between them. We'll find a way to pay them, he said, determination igniting within him. What do we need to do? Meet me at the old cantina across the square in an hour, the alien said, his eyes glinting. I'll arrange a meeting for you. As the alien walked away, Zilara took a deep breath. This could be our chance to get ahead of the pirates. But we need to be cautious. John looked down at Kelia, who was gazing around wide-eyed. You stay close to your mom. Okay. We'll figure this out together. The unexpected allies. After escaping the clutches of the pirates, John, Zilara, and Kelia flew through the vastness of space. The cockpit was filled with a tense silence, each of them processing the chaos they had just endured. John focused on the stars stretching before them, but his heart raced with anxiety. They were safe for now, but how long would that last? What do we do now? John asked, glancing at Zilara. We need to find a safe place to land and regroup. Zilara turned to the navigation console, her eyes scanning the nearby star systems. I know of a small outpost on a nearby moon. It's a trading post. They should have supplies and information about the pirates. Kelia tugged at her mother's sleeve. Will it be safe there, Mommy? Zilara knelt down to her daughter's level. It will be, sweetheart. We just need to stay alert and stick together. I promise. John nodded, feeling the surge of determination. Let's head there. We need to make a plan. As they set their course for the moon, Zilara took a deep breath, visibly relaxing as they put distance between themselves and the pirate ships. We should have some time before they regroup and come after us again, she said, confidence returning to her voice. Kelia looked out the viewport, her eyes sparkling with wonder. Look at all the stars. It's so pretty. John smiled, glancing at the young girl. Yes, it is. But we have to be careful. Space can be beautiful, but it can also be dangerous. They flew through the endless expanse, and soon the moon came into view. It was small and rocky, with patches of green where the inhabitants had managed to cultivate life. As they approached, John felt a flicker of hope. Let's land over there, by the trading post, Zilara directed. It should have a secure docking bay. The ship touched down with a gentle thud. John quickly powered down the engines and turned to Zilara. Are you ready? He asked, his voice steady but filled with anticipation. Zilara nodded, taking Kelia's hand. Let's go. We need to find information and supplies. As they exited the ship, they were greeted by the hustle and bustle of the trading post. Various alien species moved about, trading goods and exchanging news. John felt a wave of relief wash over him. They were among people, and it felt safer than being alone in space. Stay close, Zilara instructed, leading Kelia by the hand. John walked beside them, scanning the area for any signs of trouble. They approached a small market stall run by a gruff-looking alien with green skin and 4 eyes. What do you want? He grunted, his voice deep and gravelly. We need information about the pirates, Zilara said, her tone firm. Have you seen any ships like theirs around here? The alien squinted at them, his eyes narrowing. Why do you want to know? They're not friendly. John stepped forward, trying to appear calm. We've just escaped from them. We need to know if they're nearby. The alien considered them for a moment before nodding slowly. I saw them not long ago. They were heading toward the old mining facility on the other side of the moon. Be careful. They're looking for something. Zilara exchanged a worried glance with John. What could they be looking for? She wondered aloud. Something valuable, I guess, the alien replied. They often raid places for technology and resources. You don't want to get caught up in their schemes. Kelia tugged at her mother's hand. Can we go home now? Zilara knelt down, brushing a strand of hair from Kelia's face. Not yet, sweetheart. We need to make sure we're safe first. John felt a swell of determination. We have to find out what the pirates are up to. If they're looking for something valuable, we might be able to use it against them. Zilara nodded in agreement. You're right. We need to gather more information. If they have something we can use, we can turn the tide in our favor. The alien merchant leaned closer. If you're serious about this, I can help. There's a group of mercenaries who might be willing to assist you. They're skilled and know how to deal with pirates, but you'll need to pay them well. John exchanged glances with Zilara, a silent agreement passing between them. We'll find a way to pay them, he said, determination igniting within him. What do we need to do? Meet me at the old cantina across the square in an hour, the alien said, his eyes glinting. I'll arrange a meeting for you. As the alien walked away, Zilara took a deep breath. This could be our chance to get ahead of the pirates. But we need to be cautious. John looked down at Kelia, who was gazing around wide-eyed. You stay close to your mom, okay? We'll figure this out together. As they plunged into the rocky ravine, John felt the ship shudder. The walls closed in around them, and he had to maneuver carefully to avoid crashing. He focused on Zilara's calm voice as she called out directions, her confidence steadying him. Left. No, right. Now up, she shouted, and John obeyed each command, narrowly avoiding sharp rocks. The pirates' ships followed closely, their weapons firing bursts of energy that illuminated the darkness of the canyon. Explosions echoed around them, sending rocks tumbling down from above. They're right behind us, Kelia cried out, her voice tinged with fear. Just keep holding on. John reassured her, his heart racing. We're going to make it. Stay low, Zilara instructed, and John followed her lead, tilting the ship down toward the rocky ground. They zipped through the narrow passages, the sound of energy blasts reverberating in the air. Just when they thought they had gained some distance, a pirate ship swooped in front of them, blocking their path. No, John shouted, pulling back on the controls to avoid a collision. The ship veered sideways, barely escaping the trap. Zilara quickly grabbed the control panel, her fingers moving with precision. I can fire back. Just keep us steady, she exclaimed. Do it, John yelled, focused on steering. Zilara activated the ship's weapons, and bursts of energy shot toward the pursuing pirate ship. John glanced back at the ship as it exploded in a shower of sparks. Yes, we got one. He cheered, but they still had more to face. The remaining pirates were relentless, splitting into two groups to flank them. They're surrounding us, John said, panic rising in his chest. Just keep flying. We'll find a way out, Zilara urged, her voice filled with determination. Faster, John shouted, pushing the engines to their limits. The ship roared as they darted through the narrow passages, trying to evade the incoming fire. Suddenly, the ground shook violently. John's eyes widened as he noticed a massive rockslide triggered by the explosions. Look out, he yelled, veering sharply to avoid the falling debris. The ship swerved, narrowly escaping the tumbling rocks that crashed around them. Keep going. We can't stop now, Zilara called, her face set in determination. John pressed on, adrenaline surging as they flew deeper into the canyon. Just as they thought they had found a moment of safety, the lead pirate ship made a final desperate attempt to catch them. It fired a powerful shot, hitting their ship with a loud bang. The ship lurched violently, John fought to maintain control, his heart racing. "We're losing power," he shouted. Zalara's eyes narrowed in focus. "We can't give up. I'll try to reroute the energy." She moved quickly to the control panel, her fingers flying over the buttons as she worked to stabilize the ship. Kelia clutched her mother's hand, fear in her eyes. "Are we going to be okay?" Zilara turned to her daughter, determination shining in her gaze. "Yes, we will. Trust us." John took a deep breath, focusing on the narrow canyon ahead. "We can make it through. Just hold on." He steered the ship with all his strength, feeling the weight of their escape on his shoulders. As they surged forward, they finally spotted the exit of the canyon. It was a small opening, and beyond it lay the vast expanse of the sky. With one final push, John directed the ship toward freedom. They burst out of the canyon, the sunlight flooding the cockpit. The pirate ships hesitated, not daring to follow them into the open sky. "We did it," John exclaimed, feeling a wave of relief wash over him. Zilara hugged Kelia close, her voice filled with gratitude. "Thank you, John. You saved us." John smiled, his heart swelling with pride. "We're not out of danger yet, but we'll figure it out together." As they soared into the open air, they knew they had won a small battle, but the war for their safety had only just begun. Zilara turned to him, her eyes sparkling. "That might work for some of the repairs," she said excitedly. Kelia, who had been quietly watching, suddenly said, "Will we go home soon?" John crouched down to her level. "We'll do everything we can to get you both home, I promise." He could see the hope in her eyes, and it made his heart swell. Zilara's face grew serious as she continued to work. "But we need to be quick. The pirates might come back, and if they do, we will be in danger again." John's smile faded at the thought. "You're right. We need to be ready. If we can get this ship flying again, we can escape before they find us." With renewed focus, John and Zilara continued their work. Time passed quickly, and soon they managed to fix several systems on the ship. They felt a sense of accomplishment, but John knew they weren't out of danger yet. "Let's check the engines," John suggested. "They might need some work too." Together, they climbed down into the lower section of the ship, where the engines were located. The sight that met them was grim. The engines were damaged, but not beyond repair. "I think I can fix this," John said, rolling up his sleeves. Zilara looked at him, admiration shining in her eyes. "You're incredible," she said, and John felt a warm glow at her praise. As he worked, Zilara handed him tools, her hand steady and sure. "We're a good team," she said with a smile. "Yes, we are," John agreed, feeling more determined than ever. They would work together, and they would succeed. Suddenly, the ship's alarm blared again. John's heart raced. "What now?" he muttered. "Something is approaching," Zilara said, her expression turning serious. "It could be the pirates." John's blood ran cold. They had to finish their repairs quickly and escape. "We need to move fast. Let's finish up and get ready to launch." As they worked with urgency, John couldn't help but admire Zilara's strength and resilience. She was not just an alien princess, she was a survivor, and he was determined to protect her and her daughter at all costs. The pirates' attack. As the engines roared to life, John felt a surge of hope. They had worked tirelessly, and the ship was finally ready to fly. But as he turned to Zilara, a chilling sound broke through the air, an ominous rumble that made his heart race. "Listen," Zilara exclaimed, her eyes wide with alarm. The low growl of engines echoed in the distance, growing louder and closer. John glanced out the small viewport and saw shadows darting through the sky. "It's them. The pirates are coming," he shouted, urgency filling his voice. "Get us into the air," Zilara urged, her determination shining through her fear. "We have to escape before they reach us." John rushed back to the control panel, his fingers flying over the buttons. "I'm on it." He felt a rush of adrenaline as he worked to launch the ship. The engines throbbed beneath him, and he could hear the sound of the pirates' ships closing in. "Mommy, I'm scared." Kelia's small voice trembled behind them. Zilara turned to her daughter, quickly kneeling down to meet her eye to eye. "Kelia, listen to me. We are going to be okay. I need you to be brave, just like we talked about. Stay close to me." Kelia nodded, but John could see the worry etched on her young face. He wanted to reassure her, but he had no time for comfort. The ship's systems began to flicker as the pirates' ships loomed nearer. "Hold on tight," John shouted, pressing the launch button. The ship jolted as it lifted off the ground, ascending into the sky. They were airborne, but the pirates were fast. John could see their ships speeding toward them, sleek and menacing. "We have to move faster," he said, adrenaline pumping through him. Zilara moved to the navigation console, her eyes scanning the controls. "I can guide us through the canyon," she said, pointing to a narrow opening on the holographic map. "It's risky, but it might give us the cover we need." "Do it. Lead the way," John replied, gripping the controls tightly as he steered the ship toward the canyon. "Let's check the engines," John suggested. "They might need some work too." Together, they climbed down into the lower section of the ship where the engines were located. The sight that met them was grim. The engines were damaged, but not beyond repair. "I think I can fix this," John said, rolling up his sleeves. Zilara looked at him, admiration shining in her eyes. "You're incredible," she said, and John felt a warm glow at her praise. As he worked, Zilara handed him tools, her hand steady and sure. "We're a good team," she said with a smile. "Yes, we are," John agreed, feeling more determined than ever. They would work together, and they would succeed. The alien ship. John, Zilara, and Kelia stepped onto the surface of the strange new planet. The air was fresh and filled with the scent of exotic plants. They took a moment to breathe it in before turning their attention to the damaged ship that had caused so much trouble. "Let's check out your ship," John suggested, leading the way through a dense patch of colorful foliage. The ship was a short distance away, resting on a patch of soft, green grass. Its once sleek body was now battered and dented, with scorch marks marring its surface. As they approached, Zilara's heart sank. "Oh no, it looks worse than I thought," she said, her voice trembling. She reached out a hand to touch the cold metal of the hull. "We might not be able to repair it." John knelt down to examine the damage more closely. "Let's take a look inside," he said, reassuringly. "Maybe there's still some equipment we can salvage." Kelia clutched her mother's hand tightly. "Will it be safe?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "Of course," John said with a gentle smile. "I'll go first." He climbed up the small ramp and pushed the hatch open. The interior of the ship was dim, but John's eyes adjusted quickly. It was cramped and filled with strange alien technology that he didn't fully understand. But he noticed that some systems were still functional. "Stay close," he called back to Zilara and Kelia as they followed him inside. Zilara looked around in awe. "This was our home," she said softly. "It's all so strange to you, but to us, this was normal." John nodded, understanding the weight of her words. He could only imagine how terrifying it must have been for them to lose their home. "Let's see what we can salvage," he said again, his voice firm. As they moved deeper into the ship, John spotted the control panel. It was flickering weakly, but some lights were still on. "I might be able to get this working again," he said, feeling hopeful. Zilara moved beside him, her fingers tracing the unfamiliar symbols on the panel. "If you can restore power, I can help navigate and communicate with my people. They will be looking for us." John grinned, feeling encouraged by her optimism. "Let's do it, then." He began to tinker with the panel, pressing buttons and adjusting settings. Zilara watched closely, offering suggestions based on her knowledge of the ship's systems. It was a strange partnership, human and alien working together, each bringing their skills to the table. After several tense minutes of trying different combinations, John heard a soft peep. "I think I got it," he exclaimed, stepping back as the lights brightened. The control panel sprang to life, displaying information in bright colors. Zilara's face lit up with hope. "Yes, we might be able to send a signal," she said, rushing to the panel. She began to input commands, her fingers dancing over the controls with confidence. John stood back, impressed. "You're really good at this," he said. "Thank you. I learned a lot on Xanthia," she replied, her voice full of determination. "If I can reach my people, they will send help." As Zilara worked, John checked the other compartments of the ship. He found some tools and spare parts that might be useful. "Look what I found," he called out, holding up a device that resembled a wrench but had strange lights on it. The rescue mission. As John Carter stood in the cramped corridor of the alien ship, he could see the fear etched on Zilara's face. Her alien features were delicate, with shimmering skin that changed colors with her emotions, and now it was a deep shade of worry. Kelia clung to her mother, her wide eyes filled with a mix of hope and trepidation. John felt a surge of determination. They had to get out of here. "Quickly, we need to move," John urged, gesturing for them to follow him. He led them back through the airlock and into his ship, the Solaris. The interior was bright and filled with the hum of machinery. Zilara glanced around, clearly in awe of the human technology. "Thank you for coming," she said, her voice shaky but grateful. "I didn't think anyone would hear our signal." "Not a problem," John replied, securing the hatch behind them. "Just sit tight. I'll get us out of here." He quickly moved to the control panel, his fingers flying over the buttons and switches. The scanner showed the asteroids swirling dangerously close to both ships. He needed to navigate out of the field and get them to safety. "Are you injured?" John asked, glancing back at them. Zilara shook her head, but he could see the tension in her body. "We are okay, but the ship, it's critical. We're losing power fast." "Just hold on," John said, focusing on the controls. "I'm going to make a sharp turn. Brace yourselves." With a flick of the throttle, he propelled the Solaris forward, angling sharply to avoid a massive asteroid that loomed in their path. The ship shuddered as it narrowly missed the rocky giant. Zilara gasped, clutching her daughter tighter. "Are we safe now?" Kelia asked, her voice barely a whisper. "Not yet," John replied, scanning the display. "I need to find a clear route." The seconds felt like hours as John maneuvered through the treacherous field, avoiding asteroids that danced dangerously close to them. Zilara watched him work, impressed by his skill. Humans were known for their bravery, but she had never seen one in action before. Just as they began to clear the worst of the debris, the ship's alarm blared. John's heart sank. He looked at the display and saw the warning lights flashing. Another asteroid was heading straight for them. "Hang on," John shouted, slamming his hands on the controls. He pushed the ship into a steep climb, narrowly avoiding the giant rock. The impact of the maneuver shook the vessel, but they held steady. Zilara watched in awe. "You're amazing," she exclaimed, her fear momentarily forgotten. "Just doing what needs to be done," John said, a hint of a smile on his face as he regained control. "We're almost clear." As they broke free from the asteroid field, the vastness of space opened up around them. Stars twinkled in the distance, a stark contrast to the chaos they had just escaped. John took a deep breath, finally allowing himself to relax. "Are we safe?" Kelia asked, looking up at him with wide eyes. "For now, yes," John assured them. "But we need to find a place to land and assess the damage to your ship." Zilara's eyes softened with gratitude. "Thank you, human. You saved us." "Just doing my job," John replied, feeling a warmth spread through him. He was glad to have helped, but the mission wasn't over yet. As he scanned for a nearby planet, a thought crossed his mind. "What's your name? I mean, both of your names." "I am Zilara," "And this is my daughter, Kelia," she said, beaming with pride as she introduced her child. "We come from the planet Xanthia." "Xanthia," John repeated, intrigued. "What brings you so far from home?" Zilara's expression darkened. "We were on a diplomatic mission. Things went wrong. Our ship was attacked by pirates, and we had to escape. But I never expected to crash here." "Pirates?" John's voice was grave. "What kind of pirates?" "Ruthless ones," Zilara replied, fear creeping back into her voice. "They target smaller ships and take everything they can. We barely managed to send the distress signal before they caught us." John's jaw tightened. He had heard stories about space pirates, but he never thought he would meet someone who had faced them. "Well, you're safe now. I'll make sure you both get back to your home." Just then, his sensors beeped, indicating a nearby planet suitable for landing. John adjusted course and set the ship down on the planet's surface. The atmosphere looked clear, and it was far away from any danger. "We're here," he announced, relieved. As the engines powered down, Zilara looked out the window, her eyes wide with wonder. "What is this place?" "A safe spot for now," John replied. "Let's get out and see what we can do about your ship." The distress signal. The vast emptiness of space stretched endlessly in every direction. Stars twinkled like distant, cold eyes, watching the movement of ships across the galaxy. Among those stars, a small, battered alien vessel floated helplessly. Inside, Zilara, a tired and desperate alien mother, frantically worked the controls, trying to fix her ship's failing systems. "Kelia, hold on," Zilara called to her daughter, who was huddled in the corner of the ship, her tiny body trembling with fear. The young alien girl, barely 6 years old, had large, tear-filled eyes that reflected the blinking red lights flashing all around them. Zilara's heart raced as she realized their situation was growing worse by the second. The ship's power was almost gone, and they were drifting towards a dangerous asteroid field. One wrong move, and they would be crushed. "We're not going to make it," Zilara whispered to herself, her voice full of panic. Her hand shook as she pressed buttons and tried to restart the ship's engines, but nothing worked. The ship's system was completely fried. No response. Kelia's voice, soft and trembling, broke the silence. "Mom, are we going to die?" Zilara turned toward her daughter, forcing a smile she didn't feel. "No, Kelia. I won't let that happen." With no other choice, Zilara activated the emergency distress beacon, hoping that someone, anyone, would pick up the signal before it was too late. But she knew the chances were slim. They were in the middle of nowhere, far from any major space lanes. As the distress signal pulsed into the dark expanse, Zilara sat back in her chair, feeling hopeless. She stared out the window at the stars, wondering if this would be their last journey. Kelia crawled into her lap, and Zilara held her close, trying to comfort her daughter even as her own fear gripped her heart. Meanwhile, not far away, John Carter, a human pilot and former military officer, was flying his small craft on a routine patrol mission. He leaned back in his seat, bored and slightly annoyed at the lack of action. Nothing exciting ever happened out here in these quiet regions of space. Suddenly, his ship's console beeped loudly, catching his attention. A red light blinked on his screen, a distress signal. He quickly tapped the screen, checking the details. The signal was weak, coming from a nearby asteroid field. "Someone's in trouble," John muttered to himself, straightening up in his seat. His military instincts kicked in, and without hesitation, he changed course and headed towards the signal. He knew it could be dangerous, but he also knew he couldn't ignore it. Someone needed help. As he approached the asteroid field, John activated his ship's scanners, locating the source of the signal. His heart sank when he saw the condition of the alien ship. It was barely holding together, and the asteroid field surrounding it made any rescue attempt incredibly risky. "Dame," John whispered, quickly running calculations in his mind. He could see that the ship was on a collision course with the asteroids. They didn't have much time. He opened a communication channel to the alien vessel. "This is Captain John Carter of the human patrol ship Solaris. I've received your distress signal. Do you copy?" There was a crackling sound. Then a faint, shaky voice responded. "This is Zilara. Please, we're losing power. And my daughter, she's scared. We need help." John's heart tightened at the sound of the mother's desperation. "Hang tight, Zilara. I'm on my way. I'll get you out of there." Inside her ship, Zilara clutched the communication device, her hope rising for the first time. A human. She had heard stories of humans, but she had never met one. They were rumored to be dangerous, unpredictable, but right now, he was her only chance. Kelia looked up at her mother. "Is someone coming to save us?" Zilara nodded, her voice steadying. "Yes, sweetie. A human is coming to help us." As John's ship navigated through the asteroid field, he could see the alien vessel up close now. It was in worse shape than he had thought. With precision flying, he brought his ship alongside theirs and activated the docking procedure. "Okay," John said, as the airlock connected the two ships. "Let's get them out of here." He took a deep breath and opened the door, stepping into the narrow corridor that led to the alien ship. As he entered, he was met by the sight of Zilara, holding her daughter close. They both looked terrified, but there was a glimmer of hope in their eyes. John gave them a reassuring smile. "Let's get you two out of here." As Zilara and Kelia hurried towards him, John could hear the ship creaking and groaning. Time was running out, but he was determined to save them, no matter what it took. "You said